Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Creighton, and my special guest today is Kamel El-Cheikh, who is well known to my viewers as a parent and a Muslim who is fighting for values, Canadian values. And when we get back, we're going to discuss what's happening on Monday.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, resubscribe if you need to. We know YouTube loves to unsubscribe people, and it doesn't matter if you're a large station or a small one or in between. They do take your supporters away from you if you talk about issues they don't like. But we keep talking about those issues, and I have been suppressed over the last 12 months at times. It's outrageous, but I'm beating it because people like you and the wonderful people who support what we're talking about keep fighting back. And we're not just fighting Trudeau censorship, we're fighting the big tech censorship at times and the suppression. So nice to have you back, Kamel. And it hasn't been as long since the last time you were on as it was previously, which is far too long. But I am so happy to hear we've got an event coming up. Here it is Saturday, and happy Saturday, everybody. We got an event coming up Monday, it's a walkout in opposition to Pride Month, which officially started today. It's the month, it's always been the month of my birthday, and now all it's about is pride, 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 pride. And the Bible says pride goeth before a fall. So I'd like to know what's going on with this walkout event on Monday, Kamel.
All right, David, it's actually, it's not Pride June. It's actually My Child June. I'm just going to correct you there. And it's a campaign the whole month. And it's going to happen every year, just like the September 20th every year. This year, September 20th lands on a Friday for the Million People March.
Yep.
At Hands Off Our Kids, every year moving forward is going to be My Child June, because Canada's children belong to Canada's parents. And it starts off, well, by the way, happy birthday to you. I don't know what day of the month that lands on. We got to celebrate that. We got to make excuses for every day to celebrate, right? So
we do.
Yeah. And Monday, June the 3rd is the kickoff. What's happened was many organizations have come and spoke to me across this wonderful nation. And they told me, Kamel, we're planning on just doing a walkout because on Monday, June the 3rd, the pride flag will be raised. Okay. And, last year that created an uproar. And so I said, you know what? Instead of reinventing the wheel, let us just follow this momentum and escalate it, because obviously, we want to endorse any initiative that supports Canadian parents. So we scheduled a nationwide walkout. Now, some organizations are scheduling a demonstration. Some are probably doing a picnic. Consult your local area organizations and what they're doing if you want to do anything further. But the idea is we're going to completely boycott that day. Parents, take your kids out of school, complete boycott, send a letter to the board telling them that you are intentionally boycotting the flag raising. Sorry, I got a call there.
No problem.
Tell the school that you are officially boycotting the flag. Now, our education wing is putting those PDFs on the website, as we speak. So, our team is working around the clock to get that done. So Monday is just a walkout. Nothing special. We're not planning a protest on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. Now, there may be some organizations affiliated with us that want to go that extra step, but we're just telling parents, take the day off. It's a beautiful, June so far. Saturday today looks really nice. Just take the day off. Now, there are parts of June where our teams are asking parents, get your kids to wear red and white to commemorate the Canadian flag all of June. And that's the flag that represents all of us. David, you're an evangelical Christian. You have a Christian flag. I have a Muslim flag, but both of us have the Canadian flag that brings us together. And it's fine to have other flags. I got a sports flag, right? For a hockey team. So it's fine to have a flag, but one flag that unites us all is the Canadian flag. So there are instances where we're scheduling surprises. June the 13th, if you remember my speech of we are one nation under God, we're going to celebrate that day because that was the biggest day where Christians and Muslims came together for our 1-year anniversary of Hands Off Our Kids. So that's another day to celebrate. Just like you celebrate, we're going to make sure we celebrate and bring back Canadian family values.
Well, it sounds great. So it's not a literal case where the kids are going to be standing out of their chairs and walking out. This is just don't go to school on Monday. That's what this is all about. Then.
Yeah, and you know what? Feel free to be creative and be noisy with it because, our counterparts like to be noisy and flashy. If you want to drive your kids to school and telling them, we're not going to bring our kids today. We're boycotting the flag and going home and getting, some Tim Hortons coffee or a beaver tail. You go right ahead. Just make a statement that Canada's children belong to Canada's parents and show how proud you are to be a mother, a grandmother, a father. Show the school that your kids belong to you. You put food on the table. You are teaching, if you're a Christian, you are teaching them Christian Canadian values. If you're a Muslim, you're teaching them Muslim Canadian values. You're going to show the school that you are boss. And we're going to do that to the Pride community. We're going to do that to the government. And we're going to do that to the pharmaceuticals because we have zero tolerance for any of the policies passing down. And we're looking to eradicate all those policies. We're not looking to negotiate. We're not here to negotiate.
No, I would suggest, I think this is a fantastic idea. And once again, it's Hands Off Our Kids who came up with this idea and is really running with this ball here. I think in the future, it might be an idea to say 10 o'clock in the morning, all children who are opposed to this Pride season beginning, and it's not Pride Month anymore, it's Pride season. Get up from your chairs and walk out because I remember, there's a great movie from the 1970s, 1978, if I'm not mistaken, called Network. And there's a character in that movie called Howard Beale. And he's a newscaster and he says to his audience, because this is a time of deep frustration in the mid to late 70s, just like it is now, high inflation, high unemployment, huge problems with gasoline lineups. So Howard Beale stands up and he says, I want you to get out of your chairs. I want you to go to the window. I want you to open that window and I want you to shout, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
I love it.
And I almost think that we have come to that point where we've been pushed around so much as Christians, as Muslims, as Jews.
Absolutely.
Goodness gracious, as Hindus and Sikhs, because we have the government, this liberal government, this Trudeau government especially, has assumed that we are not going to fight back. And not only that, they've assumed that if you're a Muslim, if you're a Sikh, if you're a Hindu, even if you're a Jew, you're voting liberal. They haven't quite put evangelicals or even Roman Catholics anymore in the pocket of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
But my goodness, if you're anything else, well, you're voting liberal because the liberals understand you. And nobody else can understand.
They're not liberal anymore. Let's make that clear. They're not liberal anymore. Liberal means you're with everybody, and liberal today is just a dream, and it's just Justin Trudeau's view of what Canada is like in his mind. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, I don't want to focus too much on the gender ideology because we always talk about that, but it outraged me when there was just such an emotional kerfuffle in Ottawa over what Alberta recently did in terms of having some standards. Now, I don't agree they went far enough in Alberta. I don't agree the parameters are strict enough, but at least they tried to push back to some degree, and that created this volatile storm in Ottawa where you had these cabinet ministers claiming this was war on children. It goes to show you how they have turned morality on its head, though.
Yeah.
Where somehow it's called gender affirming care.
Oh, it's
Gender
disgusting.
affirming care.
Disgusting is what it is.
And this is barbarism. These sex changes on
Yeah,
12-year-olds, puberty blockers. This is barbarism. This has got nothing to do with gender affirming care.
Well,
It's
that
not
affirming care, it's funny. Isn't that a paradox where pedophiles don't get gender affirming care and castration, but kids get castration and gender affirming care? What are we doing here in society? Like, we're promoting degeneracy. Is this what we're doing? I'm sorry. Look, again, I won't use that term, minor attracted persons. You're a pedophile. No. And you need to be dealt with in the justice system. And you know what? Our current government right now is promoting pedophilia and eradicating kids' futures by, changing the sex of a 5-year-old with pills that's irreversible, female or a male. But pedophiles, oh, well, yeah, minor attracted persons' rights. Well, what about children's rights here? Who are you fooling? That's the question I'm asking. Now, David, with my child, June, we were quiet so many times that, we allowed all these things to get extreme on us. Now, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We're going to push, and we're going to push it completely back, and we're going to eradicate. And I'm using that term unapologetically. We're going to eradicate every law that violated children's rights and that violated the parental rights that guard the children in this country. And it's great in Alberta. I praise politicians anytime they do something good. Danielle Smith did something good, but didn't do enough. Okay? Now, is she going to do enough? That's up to Canadians to figure that out, and that's up to Danielle Smith to decide. She's the premier of Alberta. What's happened in Saskatchewan? Parents have rights. What's happened in Manitoba? Maybe they have more advancement than Ontario. That means we're a little bit behind in Ontario. We're looking to scale it across the board and bring back Canada to the nuclear family. And let me be specific. The nuclear family ideals: one dad, one mom. Now, if you're a widower, you're single, you're divorced, you're still a nuclear family that's had some hardships or whatever. That's people's personal lives. But we want to go back to those ideals. The ideals that mom and dad take care of the kids, take care of the future taxpayer, and grandma and grandpa. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, I think there's a growing consensus amongst all faiths in Canada that we need less government in our lives.
Yes.
Because the less government we have, the more power parents have, and the more power individuals have. And I'm certainly seeing the solution more in terms of that kind of political ideal, because government today is so corrupting, and I don't trust government to ever provide good advice, to ever provide rules to live by. Because I recall, once again, going back to that announcement by Danielle Smith, who's an old friend from Calgary journalism days.
Oh, nice.
When she made that announcement in the outrage in Ottawa, I remember Randy Boissonnault, the employment minister and the member of parliament from Edmonton Centre, saying that he was up all night talking to trans kids about how horrible this was. And my first reaction was to say, I'll bet you were. Yeah, up all night talking to you're a cabinet minister and you're fielding calls all night long from kids? Then I thought, what if he was? That creeps me out. What is this guy on the phone with kids for all night? Either way,
No.
it's a losing proposition. So either he's lying about this, or this is really creepy. And I thought this is somehow how they hide behind this smokescreen of being so concerned about the children. And I thought, if this is their concern for children, then please provide me with something else. But I think what you're doing, I have heard so many Christians say to me, thank God that our Muslim friends are active in this, are pushing this as strongly as they are, because as far as I'm concerned, the Christian church has failed at times. And I will say that. Where has the Christian church been to allow this to happen? This is supposed to be a predominantly Christian country. When you add together all of the Roman Catholics, the Protestants, and all the groups that are comprised under that category, and yet there's been very little pushback. So I applaud again what Canadian Muslims are doing, because you're as concerned about traditional values as anybody, as any faith, and I think that is fantastic. But I want to live in a Canada where the government is not indoctrinating our children about politics.
Me too.
And is not telling our children what to think. Are there any plans to protest the flying of the pride flag at the Prime Minister's office in downtown Ottawa, the brownstone building? Last year, there was a tremendous response to that when parents came out and protested that.
There's a lot of plans, David. Some we want to keep a surprise,
Okay.
because we want to be spontaneous. We want to be unpredictable, but we've been working around the clock. I had a conference call last night in Montreal at 8:30 at night, and it went all the way up to 10:30 at night. People ready to go. We had another team, while I was doing that conference call, do all of the GTA. And I wasn't part of that because I just didn't have any time. And I did 5 or 6 media blitzes yesterday. So, and while that was happening, our education wing is setting the guidelines for specific dates. Now, you will find out what those dates are. But at the same time, we are highly versatile. So that means anything and everything is an option on our table. And the groups, remember, Hands Off Our Kids is a Canadian umbrella initiative. We got the Mama Bears in there. We got Veterans for Freedom. We got NCI. We got Campaign Life. We got all these groups. The Pride campaign, the International Pride campaign, is composed of NGOs, organizations just like us. But we're much more powerful because we're 98.4% of Canadians. I've been speaking to people in BC. They told me, Kamel, can you reach out to this organization? I'll be honest with you. The only scarcity I do have, David, is my time. My time is finite. I want to get to all these Canadians, and I'm getting emails galore, and I do disappoint because I can't get to them fast enough. So, and it's a good problem because we get a lot of support. So is there plans for the Prime Minister? I guess we'll find out. I got to talk to these groups because I've been so focused on Monday, June the 3rd walkout. Yeah. And I've been focused on June 13, our 1-year anniversary of the One Nation Under God speech. If you remember that at the board.
Yes.
Where I looked at our people and I saw Christian crosses and I saw Muslims in hijab, and they were all cheering, carrying Canadian flags. That sent chills across the nation. We're going to celebrate that day. So every day in June, just like you guys are noisy, we're going to be noisy parents. But then we're going to tell you should be ashamed of yourself if you ever dare to go naked again in front of kids.
Yeah, that is so outrageous. And that, when I talk about these issues with Canadians and Canadian parents, that's what really stands out as the primary objection to these so-called pride events. And here we are with activities, behavior that should be, and is illegal, but it's not punished. People are not arrested. for walking around with their private parts hanging out, exposing themselves to children.
While being
This is
aroused, David. While
yes,
being aroused. Did you see those pictures?
I have. It's disgusting. It
Yes.
should be called disgusting. And the cops should be arresting these people, not saying, well, we'll let that go because this is a pride event. This is
Yeah.
so outrageous.
We're going to
I'm
make sure
I
they
don't
get
know if you
arrested this time.
I don't know if you read my article, and it was very underreported, but the Canadian Security Intelligence Service in their 2023 report, and I would encourage every parent read the article that I did on Post Millennial, or LifeSite News also covered this, but look up the CSIS 2023 report yourself. You can find it on the government website. And there are pages in there about how CSIS is now targeting Canadian parents as domestic terrorists. If
Yeah.
you oppose gender ideology, and if you have any problem with the whole LGBTQ agenda, including Pride Month, Pride Season, whatever you want to call it, I mean, this is a declaration of war. And I think
Yes,
CSIS is
absolutely.
doing this to appease the prime minister, who has been a little bit perturbed with them over the China election interference issue. So CSIS is bending down. CSIS is prostrate before the prime minister, saying, we're going to go after your political enemies now, Mr. Trudeau. We're going to go after those parents who you think are somehow
Good luck with
not
that.
exercising their rights as parents because you think the state should be raising children. Those parents think they should be raising their children. And Mr. Trudeau, we're going to go after them for that. I mean, have you read any of this?
Yes, I've been following on that, and I chuckled. If I don't watch Comedy Central anymore, I just watch what Trudeau does next, to be honest, and I laugh.
Yeah.
And the reason why I laugh, David, is, that's just virtue signaling to the prime minister. CSIS, prime minister comes and I want to get back at you, parents. The guy is a maniac. He's just unhinged, and he did this to scare parents. Remember, CSIS has a lot of mothers and fathers in there, and a lot of them work at Hands Off Our Kids, just so you know. So,
just so I know.
Am I nervous? Why would I be? We have good relationships with CSIS, who, by the way, is a massive organization, okay, that, tries to stay discreet. We have public figures in this movement, myself included, all that you see on camera, but we also have a lot of people that are very powerful but are very discreet, including people that work with the prime minister himself and in the House of Commons. So, you want to scare Canadians, you go right ahead. You're a bully. You're a bully. You're going to go around trying to scare us. You do whatever you want. You do the flavor of the day, what makes you happy. That's what narcissists do. But real organizations like Hands Off Our Kids are going to be steadfast in our ideals, and we're going to liberate Canada's kids. We were serious about that. And just to remind you, a year ago, I had issued a warning that went viral to the Pride community. If you dare to counter our Million People March, we will consider every one of your activities a counter. They thought we were going to have 10 people march in our 1.5 million people from coast to coast marching. Mm-hmm. They got scared away because of that. Me and you in Ottawa, you saw them. We over pummeled them, right? And we had our speeches. We got boycotted. Jagmeet Singh looked me in the face. You saw all of it. And that day was successful. But they're like, uh-oh, we woke up a sleeping giant. And now guess what? We made that promise a year ago. And I said, every one of your events moving forward would be a counter. My child, June, is going to be that promise. And you know what? Anything is on the table in terms of countering back. We are allowed to counter. So whatever you say, that's completely up to you. You want to scare parents? You want to demonize us? You go right ahead. That's nothing new to me, to be honest.
Well, I'm inspired to hear that. And every time we talk about these issues, I'm inspired. You give me a sense of optimism, which I don't always get. in the work I do.
God bless you,
Sometimes
man.
it can be very pessimistic, but
Yeah.
are you under personal attack by these woke organizations that are out there? I think of that totally bogus network that figured into the whole Freedom Convoy controversy called the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which turned out to be funded by the Trudeau government. And it's out there claiming like the Freedom Convoy had links to some notorious militia that existed someplace out there.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, it was all a total bald-faced lie. But are you under attack from these people out there on the internet that are constantly trying to undermine the good work you're doing?
Yes, and you know what? They try, and we know their identities, and we make note of that. I'm a former auditor, right? So, payback, I make sure it hurts. So, they do try. I was on TikTok live last night, and I had 5 or 6 of Trudeau's, LGBT feminism movement. Oh, you're a bigot. And I'm like, you're coming to my live telling me I'm a bigot and I'm talking about children.
Mm-hmm.
And you're coming to my
Amazing.
live and calling me a bigot. Did I discuss you at any? So you're telling me, and I'm asking them this question on my live. I'm asking them, are you okay with you going naked while being aroused and showing your ornaments to a 5-year-old? They wouldn't answer the question. And so we had people on my live report them. And they're like, "Oh, we're reporting your account." You go right ahead. You wanna play that game? We can play it very well, and we can make sure that you regret it. We have lawyers across this country working for free in the organization. And you know how expensive lawyers are, David. I'm working for free. So, you know what? Our kids are non-negotiable. I do get targets, but it's not as bad as you think. It's just again, they're trying to scare the people that acquiesce, and me and you will not acquiesce to that.
No, and I've certainly been subject to hate from people alleging that I'm the hateful one for simply supporting traditional values in this country and supporting children. And of course, that's what I mean when I say they turn morality over on its head, and black is white and white is black. And that's what they do. And they only win when we acquiesce, and they only win when we are fearful, because as the Bible says, God has not created a spirit of fear, but of but of justice and sound mind.
Absolutely.
And that is what we are doing here, and that is what you are doing. I applaud what you're doing. So Monday, parents, if you want June to be about my child month and not about the beginning of Pride season, keep your children home. Let them stay home on Monday, because this, I think, is one of the most meaningful protests we've ever had in Canada. I don't say that lightly, Camille. I don't say that lightly. I'm not saying that because you're a friend. I'm not saying that because you're an ally and someone I deem as a brother. I'm saying that because Canada has been horrible throughout the years, pushing
Absolutely.
back on this agenda and saying no. We have difficulty saying no, and we keep acquiescing.
Yes.
You and others like you, and thank God this is a movement that comprises Muslims, Christians, Jews, Sikhs,
Buddhists, Sikhs in
Hindus,
BC, they're amazing. I love it.
everybody who wants their children to be raised by parents and not the state. And you're saying no. And so this is historic, what's happening on Monday. And God, I am going to get out there and talk about this as much as I can, not just this broadcast. I'll be speaking at a local church tomorrow. I'm
I
going to be
love it.
talking about this first and foremost, what's happening. And I tell you, we need everybody to say it's not over. We haven't lost this battle. We're just beginning to fight. We're just beginning to fight back. And you people like you in this organization, hands off our kids, you mean it. Hands off our kids. You're not saying, please,
No, we're
please
we're we're
give our
unapologetic.
children back.
Yeah,
We are the parents.
absolutely.
And I was subject to incredible hostility from the school my daughter was in, who wanted to indoctrinate her in this kind of philosophy and this ideology. And at that time, there was nobody pushing back. Thank God this is not the case anymore. So your work is respected, it's appreciated, and it's loved, and we're going to keep supporting it. I, of course, will be there for the next million-person march. Let's make it 2
You're our
million.
master of ceremonies.
I'll be the
Friday,
master of
September
ceremonies.
20th, 2024. Repeat that date. That's going to
Yes.
be, you know, oh my God, David, I get stopped everywhere. When is the next million people march? I just say Friday, September 20th, 2024 is the 1-year anniversary of the 1 million people march. And it's going to come every year. It's going to unite Canadians, re-solidify that bond, that Christian, Muslim, Buddhist bond, and just you know, like I remember that day, parents were so energized to start off the school year, and we're going to end the school year with a My Child June month-long party.
And I think that is a glorious way to end the school year, because it did begin in victory. The government wants us to be fighting about other issues. They want us to be distracted by other issues. They don't want us to focus on the issues that unite us. They don't want us to get together and say enough of this totalitarian government. They're losing. We are winning. And I think we're going to do that on Monday. So thank you so much, Kamel, for joining us today. We're going to get this broadcast out far and wide, and I am going to keep talking about this. This is a historic day for Canada that's coming up, and you've had so much to play in that. And I thank you for your work and for your commitment, because it's easy to have an idea. It's easy to start an idea. It's not easy to bring it to fruition and to keep moving with that football all the way to the goal post, because you can get tackled along the way, you can get stopped, but you're saying no, and you're going forward. So God bless you. I'll be with you, and let's move forward together.
I'll be with you. And you know what? We have a great team, so we don't stop, and they're amazing, man.
Okay, and we'll talk again soon, Kamel. Thank you.
Thank you.